Hey, it's Emma Lockard, and I'm on the board of directors for the Nebraska Association for Translators and Interpreters. And we're here today to do another Meet the Board interview. But this time, I'm going to be the one that is interviewed. Usually, I'm the one asking the questions. So I have my fabulous colleague from the board of directors. Go ahead and introduce yourself and then ask me the questions.
Okay, here we go. I'm Angie Monteroso. I'm the secretary. You got to meet me last week, but this time it's Emma's turn to answer some questions. So we'll just get started. So Emma, what is your current job and what languages do you work into? And do you work interpreting and translating or both?
All right. So one of my main gigs is a real estate agent, of course, bilingual. And then I picked up a consultant job. I'm a consultant for a language services program with the International Council for Refugees and Immigrants based here in Omaha. That's new as of November. So if you need interpreter services, contact me. um, I also do some freelance work. I've also been an interpreter instructor, so I've done interpreting and translating. I just kind of do it all. Very passionate about the industry, and so yeah, that's where I'm at.
And what are your languages?
Oh yeah, Spanish and English.
Yeah, can't forget that because people might be hitting you up for Swahili or something.
No Swahili.
No. So how long have you been on the NATI board and why did you join?
So I joined in, I guess it would have been September 2016, and I was recruited by former President Marcia Conroy. And I was kind of surprised that she asked me because I had graduated from the University of Nebraska Kearney in 2013 with a degree in Spanish interpretation and translation. So in my eyes, I was just kind of, I felt like I was too young or not experienced enough to join the board. So it was a shock when she asked me. But I was very much obliged to join because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so passionate about this industry. I want to get involved. I had been in Omaha for 2 years. I moved to Omaha in 2014. So I thought this would be a great way to just get my foot in the door with more experience, connections, and help others pursue a career in interpretation, translation, and help the community find those resources.
Yeah. And the board has been so lucky to have you. I know that.
I try. Thanks.
Yeah. Um, so how long have you been working in the industry as an interpreter and a translator?
So I did my first official, I guess, paid for doing the work when I was doing my independent study through UNK. I was connected with Kearney Public Schools, and so that was probably 2011. And from there, I actually went on to work with Kearney Public Schools for a little bit, contractually, and then I was like hired as part-time. But then I got hired to move here to Omaha and manage and direct an interpreter program. So um, I guess it all started in 2011, and then from there, it's just been kind of freelance. Um, I did do some interpreting and translating, even though I was directing that program. Um, but yeah, I guess 2011 is when it started. My very first translation ever, though, was when I was 13 years old, and it was Shakira's breakout album in the United States called Laundry Service. Um, I always loved learning Spanish, and so I like heard about Shakira and I was like, oh, she seems really cool, the long curly blonde hair. That's something I obviously related to. And so I stayed up one night just translating all the songs from Spanish into English. Of course, they weren't like that good because I didn't understand like grammar fully and the context and putting it all together, but that was my first translation experience.
That's cool. Yeah, that's neat. That's where it all started.
I did.
Like, did you wait till college then to keep pursuing it, or were you excited about languages in high school?
Um, So in high school, middle school and high school, we actually started learning Spanish one time a week in grade school. We had Spanish team teachers, so they were upper level high school students that would come and teach us. And it really came naturally to me and I enjoyed it. I always felt like I was learning some sort of secret code. And so then in middle school, I still stuck with it. High school, I stuck with it, but I didn't really like the teacher. So I was actually helping my classmates cheat and get good grades. And they're getting A's and I was getting B's, but I was just like, oh, I don't like the teacher, but I like Spanish, so whatever. But then my senior year, I transferred to a different school and I loved the teacher and she really helped me realize how good I am at Spanish, and just kind of learning languages in general. So then freshman year of college, I went to UNL. I studied interior design and I was helping the graduate's assistant in one of my design classes with his advanced Spanish. And it just kind of like went off for me. Like, I've always enjoyed it. I should just do it. So then I switched gears, started studying Spanish at UNL. But then I was like, well, I don't want to just learn Spanish. Like going back to when I did the translation stuff of Shakira's album, I was like, I want to feel that feeling of breaking a code. I get so nerdy and like excited and sweaty about it. So that brought me to UNK and I pursued interpretation translation.
Yeah, I'll have to admit you didn't strike me as nerdy when I first met you, but after getting to know you, I'm like, yeah, she's full on into this nerd stuff. Yeah, I get that. So then you might have already kind of covered this. Like, why did you, and I think you kind of did, why you decided to become an interpreter and a translator?
Um, so because it felt right, I was excited about it. For a brief time, I was actually studying Spanish education, secondary Spanish education, ESL. I got all the way through student teaching, and it just did not feel right. It
It's
was so,
funny, this is like coming back to me as you talk. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that because we were taking classes together.
yes, yes. And I think so of course, like just the desire and the passion, I had to go back to interpreting and translating, studying that. But also, I'm very much like, if you tell me I can't succeed or do something, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I had people telling me that I wouldn't make it as an interpreter or translator. So I was just kind of like, challenge accepted. Like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I went back to it. And I had to study French as well for my minor. So someday I would like to be advanced enough in my proficiency in French and maybe do interpreting, translating for that and other languages as too.
Yeah. If there were only enough time in a day, right?
Yes.
Yes. So what would you say is one of the biggest lessons you've learned so far?
Oh man. Just having that faith and confidence in yourself. Um, and like there's always so much to learn. You're never going to be perfect, so that kind of goes in hand with having the confidence in yourself and knowing your limits, and when you don't know a word, don't get embarrassed. I mean, I think that's part of the educational piece of working in the industries. You have to teach people, yeah, I am bilingual. I did study this. I have experience, but I'm not going to know every single word, just like we don't know every single word in English. And we need to have those resources on us so you can look it up and then that way you can learn and get better. But definitely just believing in yourself, because there have been times where I get requests for translations or doing interpreter appointments, but I hesitate because I'm like, I don't know, like I haven't done it, for a month. Maybe I'm not going to be that good, but I try to push myself to, accept those appointments if they are within my skills, scope of skills. Like I can't go interpret it in the courts, obviously. But like because of my educational background, social services, interpreting for mental health, I just try to tell myself like, no, you've done this before. You've helped people and people need you and they're benefiting from your services. So just get out there and do it.
Yeah, that's really good because I think it's just natural to feel insecure when you're working with in an area that there's so much unknown because nobody knows all of any language.
Mm-hmm.
So,
True.
So do you have any funny stories you can share with us or a favorite moment you've had while translating and interpreting?
Yes, so two come to mind. One was after I moved here to Omaha and I was building and developing that interpreter program, but we didn't have a Spanish interpreter at that time on the team. So people heard I was there and they're like, oh my God, we have a Spanish interpreter now. And so I was going out and doing some appointments. And one was a home visit to do like an intake for some services to help the family and the children better bond and just improve their relationship and quality of life. And so the appointment was getting to like the hour and a half mark, and it was coming to an end. So I was like, okay, good, because like your brain just kind of like you forget things. But I was like, just pull through, you got this. And it came to the simplest thing. It was like, okay, well, the caseworker's speaking. She's like, we need to schedule an appointment for the next appointment or whatever. And the word in Spanish is reunión, meeting. I interpreted it into Spanish. I said riñón, which is kidney. And I immediately caught it and I started laughing, and the Spanish speaking mom started laughing, and the caseworker's like, what? And after I like caught my breath and I was I think I'm blushing now. I was so embarrassed. I explained to her, I'm like, I'm so sorry, I just interpreted this into kidney and it should have been meeting. The words are very similar and my brain is, like getting tired, and we all had a good laugh about it. So that was really funny. I think a very prominent story, like a learning lesson for me, and it kind of changed the game for when I was interpreting, was learning about the pre-session. Because at that time at UNK, they taught the pre-session, but it was more just like, okay, you professionally introduce yourself. And I learned about the pre-session after I graduated. I took a 40-hour medical interpreting course, and it said, okay, when you do the pre-session, I'm just sitting there in class like, yeah, whatever, I have a degree in this, I know how to do it. And they taught us the pre-session though, which is, introduce yourself, your language, but then you're like setting the ground rules for communication. So setting those, making sure people know, just speak a few sentences at a time. I'm going to interpret everything you say. If I need you to pause, I'll, do a symbol. So my symbol is always like this, or like putting my finger up. And then the other part was letting them know everything will be kept confidential. So it was like, once I had learned that, I started implementing it into the parent-teacher conferences, and it was so much easier to interpret. I felt like I could keep up. I felt like the communication was flowing so well between all parties. And so when I am in my interpreter instructor role, I make sure to teach that pre-session and make them know, like, it's going to change your life. I don't know.
And that almost ties into the next question, which if you have any advice for someone that wants to become an interpreter, is currently working, but that, I'm sure you have additional advice, but that is really good advice.
So much advice. I think one of the main things that helped me get better as an interpreter was recording myself interpreting and then playing it back. Hated it, but it helped so much. So there's that. Downloading apps on your phone to look up words just in case, you're in the moment and you need to look it up. Having confidence in yourself. I think joining a professional association, whether it's NATI or MICATA or ATA, just get yourself out there, connect with others. I'm even a part of several Facebook forums and just a bunch of little groups, because we're all on our phones so much every day looking at social media. So why not add the aspect of, while you're scrolling, to pop up on your group or forum that you're with, like for medical interpreting, for example, and they post questions and support each other. And I learn so much sometimes just from reading those comments. So yeah, joining associations and forums, having the resources you need, having confidence in yourself. Yeah. And knowing your limits in that pre-session.
And being okay with your limits, right?
Yeah. I really struggle with weaknesses, and I think all the time, like, I can do it all, I'm Superwoman, but we can't. So when your brain starts hitting that tired moment, make it known and see. the ideal situation, of course, is you have another interpreter there with you for those really long appointments, but sometimes that's not always the case. So even if you can, just ask for like a 5-minute break and even explain to them, like, I want to interpret in the best way that I can. And to do so, I just need a quick break, drink some water. When I explain it that way, professionals are very understanding. They're like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, you're using your brain to go between 2 different languages and for an hour straight. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's the association and just making the profession a profession so people know these little things like interpreters aren't robots. It uses your brain, and that's why joining professions and advocating for the profession is so important.
Yes.
Which you do very well.
Thank you. I try.
That's
I know
all the
some
questions
people
I've
are
got now.
sticklers.
Anything else?
What did you say?
I think we have a little lag here. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say I really am a huge advocate for the profession, and I know some people are like, translator, interpreter, it's the same. Like even people in our positions, they're like, you don't need to tell the difference. People are always gonna say it, and it's like, no, I think we need to represent ourselves and who we are, and because not a lot of people know about translators and interpreters. So yeah, I'm a huge advocate, and I like to educate people whether they work in the industry or they utilize the services.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to throw it to you, Emma, because that's all the questions I have, unless you have anything else to add.
I could talk forever about this.
And I know.
So
we
like
both
hyped up and excited, and I'm just like, I want to help everybody be the best way they can. So if anyone has any, yeah, if anyone has any questions or wants advice, just hit up NATI. They usually forward the emails to me if it's something that I can answer, but that's what we're here for, is to help empower those that work in the industry and those who want to be a part of it, but then also educate the community in the best way to work with interpreters and translators so everybody benefits. But yeah, I'll get off my soapbox now. So yeah, that's all the questions. Thank you, Angie, for interviewing me. And if anyone has any questions or wants to learn more about the Nebraska Association for Translators and Interpreters, or NATI for short, be sure to comment below. You can also send us an email at info@natihq.org. We also have our website, www.natihq.org, and I'll put that in the description for the video. But thank you for watching and have a great day.
Bye.